Hello everyone, do you remember me? My name's Anthony and I'm going to be making more videos. So, it's been a quick minute, right? Well, I wanted to try and get back into the swing of things, so I decided to quickly make this video to let everyone know that I'm going to be making development content again, starting next month. Yay! I guess. I'll go into detail about what this will be specifically later, but I am excited to be back and doing this again. I've been thinking about how best to announce this for some months now, but thought why not just jump right into another smaller vlog style update video. So here we are. I do also have some other updates that I'd like to discuss while I'm here, but I expect some of you might have a few questions about my sudden absence, so we'll get into those first I suppose. So I expect I should start by explaining where I've been, and why there have been no new videos on my channel for nearly a year. Well, I won't spend too long on this one, but let's just say it's been somewhat complicated, and as usual, it's a combination of several things. But as I don't want to go into my personal life on YouTube, I will mention that I've been dealing with a few personal matters that I had to handle towards the back end of last year. Couple that with the initial disappointed response to my last video, part 4 of the Bomberman tutorial, I was overall feeling a little run down and deflated in producing more content at that time. I'm under no illusion that my videos will ever be big hitters, especially with the size of my channel and the content that I produce, but I would like to see my channel grow just like everyone else I guess. Ultimately, it just came down to needing a break and stepping away from it all. As I create code as part of my day job, and we were leading into the festive season at that point, I basically just decided to park the channel. I know this would have damaged my YouTube presence and the algorithm, but life comes first I suppose. But all said and done, the break has been good. I feel refreshed and I'm now raring to get back into the swing of things again, although I won't promise any release schedule just yet. Well, to be fair, not as much as you'd expect, honestly. As I mentioned, I mostly wanted a break from coding in my spare time, although that's not to say I haven't been working on anything at all. For starters, I've migrated the Street Fighter code over to use my JavaScript starter template. As this was the first project I created for my channel, it was therefore made before the template existed, so it made sense for me to align it to my other projects, and refactor the code to ensure it uses this as the base. This meant changing its foundations, removing and/or moving a number of its functions over to existing functionality that came with that template. Also while in the code, I migrated all of it over to use TypeScript, adding the necessary typing and cleaning up many of the classes too along the way. I might even explore how to do this in a separate additional video to the Street Fighter series, if people are interested in doing this for their version of that project. Secondly, I've also started creating a sprite editor application on the side. The main reason for starting this was that I wanted a tool that allowed me to easily create frames, animations, and hitboxes from sprite sheets, using images similar to what you see from the Spriters resource site. As I tend to work the same way in all my tutorials, it made sense to have an automated way of generating that code. While progress is going slowly at the moment due to time, hopefully you can see the potential for what this will eventually become. I'll probably work on this from time to time in between projects. If anyone is interested in its progress, I'll probably drop updates over on my Patreon page. Lastly, I've also been learning and playing around with other languages and game engines. Specifically in the game engine space, it's been with Unity and Godot using C#. While I found both of these tools impressive at what they do, I did at times find their UI somewhat cumbersome and generally getting in the way of what I wanted to achieve, but I expect this is just a me thing. Purely in the language space, it was mainly with Beef, Go, and quite recently Zig, using various libraries such as SDL, Mbitten, and Raylib. I did find Beef to be the easiest to pick up due to my C# background, and Go to be the most awkward to work with, but again that's probably down to me and my lack of dedicated time to delve into the language further. Either way, it's always good to get out of your comfort zone and see what else is out there once in a while. It's been interesting to explore and play with these languages and tools, but I don't plan on making any tutorials with them anytime soon, although I probably will stick with Zig and continue to explore it a little deeper. But that said, at least for me personally, I tend to find that I always come back to developing on the web, purely because of its ease of use, and the fact that I can get something up and running very quickly. I suppose getting back into my stride again, starting where I left off by completing the last video in the Bomberman series. Some of you may have noticed a poll I ran on my Patreon page recently, asking the same question, and from the results, it was clear most of you wanted this too. A big thank you to everyone who took the time to vote in that poll by the way, it was really helpful. As a quick recap on the last part of the Bomberman series, we were going to delve into creating online games using a server to host them, and therefore explain how to handle communication between it and its connected clients. Anyone who has been following me on Patreon would have already seen this working, simulating the usual lobby area and gameplay. This was completed before my break on the Patreon branch of that game's code. As you can expect, this subject will be very technical and back-end heavy, and so will require some effort to go over the basics of the technology, its tooling, and then finally onto the communication itself. With that in mind, I've decided to split the subject into 2 videos. The first will aim to be more generic and go into these topics with some detail, ultimately providing the foundations of what is needed to make online games, such as our Bomberman game. Once done, we'll then officially start part 4 of the Bomberman series, and build on top of what we've learned in the previous video. I'm hoping to have the first video drop in mid to late September, while part 4 of the Bomberman series will appear sometime after, hopefully in October. So what does this have to do with what you're seeing, you may be asking? Well, this is what we'll be building in the first video, a chat client. You may also notice I'm using a few recognisable names in the testing of my code. Hopefully those people don't mind. Anyway, a chat client is a simple enough application to explain the foundations of what is required for building a server. It's also a perfect way of understanding what communication is needed to allow for keeping the source of truth on the server. This does mean this video will have little to no game content, but I do feel having this technical know-how is required before we jump right into building an online game, such as the one for the Bomberman series. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this though. By all means, add a comment below. And just before I finish up, I'd like to provide some other updates on the projects I currently have in play, both on this channel and on Patreon. Starting with Patreon, a few people have asked questions about how it works and requested code for previous projects and reward releases, but unfortunately, due to how Patreon works, I'm unable to offer this. I'll try to explain how this currently works however. I tend to try and release new content monthly, so if you're a subscriber you will gain access to the rewards that are made available for your tier at the end of that month, once the payment has been processed on the 1st of that month. This means if you want the content as it's released, you just need to be on the tier you prefer and ensure your payment goes through on the 1st. However, if you feel the content for that month is not right for you, you can simply cancel your payment for that month. This gives everyone the flexibility to get access to the content when they want it each month. The rewards will be released to all paying patrons at the end of the first week of that month. There are now actually 4 tiers: Free, Supporter, Silver and Gold. As per usual, each tier level gains you access to all the previous tiers' benefits too. A free account allows you to see all the public posts, but that's unfortunately all. A supporter provides early access to any released video content. Silver gains access to the release video code. And finally, Gold gains you access to all code released that month, both the video code and the latest code to all my ongoing projects. Whereas I understand not everyone is able or interested in supporting what I do, but if you are, that's definitely the place to currently keep up with the latest previews and updates, which are usually all free. Anyone who does make the extra effort to follow me, and even more so, support me over there, is greatly appreciated. Don't get me wrong, all of this is completely optional though. I don't plan on changing how I post videos here on YouTube, so everyone can still follow along with the tutorials. However, a few people do tend to ask questions about Patreon subscriptions and how it works over there, so I thought I'd officially set it straight here, so I don't have to keep repeating myself. Anyway, the main reason for this is that I've had people request access to code that is no longer available through the normal subscription, such as the Street Fighter code. Well, I'd like to announce that I'll soon be offering all my projects and code repos as standalone purchases through Patreon store for those who want access to them. These will include all the code to the individual video tutorials, as well as the full set of enhancements that are only available as Patreon exclusives. In terms of the Street Fighter code, this includes the title screens, the full set of attack and special moves for both Ken and Ryu, and the full end-to-end game flow. You'll also get free updates to those projects as they're released. I should also mention that any Gold Patreon who has already contributed to this project will automatically get access to these releases for free too. In terms of flexibility, this allows those people who don't want to subscribe each month to have another option available to them. While on the subject of the Street Fighter series, I'll probably also post an edited or a slight update to the Street Fighter videos as a long video, a director cut if you will, of the whole series. This will probably make an appearance towards the back end of the year. I'll also update the Ken code and sprite, as I know the original image is no longer available over on the Spriter's resource site. In terms of its code, since the last update, I've added both E-Honda's and Gal's backgrounds along with their music assets. All close and special moves now work as intended, and you're able to block all of those moves now too. While you can also throw the opponent, the code for this is still a little rough at the moment, and probably needs a little attention. And overall, there are still several things I'd like to add to this project, but I'll be honest, it's now a little down the priority list at the moment. As for the Bomberman code, let's have a look at the main branch as it's the latest. For starters, from what you're able to see in this video, I've implemented the title screen, a very basic one-player mode, with enemies and an exit teleporter, and an online game mode which runs against a hosted server. The single-player mode was added first to get the basics in, and was used as a template for the tutorial series. The online mode has a lobby and can hold up to 5 players at once. It has all the necessary win, draw and lose functionality you'd expect, and the battle settings can be fully configured on the server. As mentioned, we'll delve into some of this in part 5 of the Bomberman series. This code has been available to Patreon since last year, but has had very few updates to it since. But hopefully, you can see it does quite a lot more than the tutorial series so far. And for my last update, I don't think I've demoed this project before on my update videos, but I had planned to start an RPG tutorial late last year, but we all know how that turned out. That said, I know I did sneak a preview of it in one of my last videos. I won't say too much about it just yet, as it's still early days, but this code is currently part of the Patreon rewards, and will no doubt be my next tutorial series on this channel. As you can see in this video though, the basic player movement is complete. Tile loading, scrolling and collision are also done and include multiple layers. The idea is to flesh this game out to be a somewhat Zelda-like clone, with a couple of missions and NPC interactions, but that's something we'll get into later in the year. Okay, I think that's where we'll sign off then. As my channel has been inactive for a while, I'm assuming my new videos probably won't pop up in your feeds too much, so hopefully you are seeing this. If you are, can I ask that you add a comment to this video or give it a like if you can? This will hopefully give YouTube's algorithm a kick and remind it that I still exist. This is just how YouTube works, unfortunately. Anyway, if that doesn't interest you, then that's cool too. This might even get people to unsubscribe, but hey, I'd like to end by saying a big thank you to you all for the support you've been giving me and my channel while I've been away. As always, it's greatly appreciated. As for myself though, I suppose I should get back to coding and producing tutorials again, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Hands out.